I went through your Instagram account and I really, really like it. I like the instruction base of it, but then also you're a pretty funny guy too. You've talked a lot about the salinity of the water and the impact that has on the harvest, and educate me and the listeners on water quality, salinity, and the impact that has on the product and the harvest.
Yeah, well, thanks for the kind words. I don't have the youngness and the boyish charm of Luke, so I got to be more on the education end and try to be funny, I guess. Use my strengths if I have any.
Y'all are fun playing off of each other on the YouTube and Instagram. I do like that.
We got the father-son relationship. More like redheaded stepchild, stepfather relationship. I like it. Yeah, so salinity plays a big role. The crabs, they want some salinity. I couldn't tell you what it is. The bulk of the crabs end up at a certain area in the bay every year. So depending on what salinity they want, where that line is where the bulk of them end up. And just try to rub nickels together until the bulk of the crabs show up. Typically a year like this we'll have about 3 weeks to make the bulk of our money.
Wow, 3 weeks. Holy shit, that's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. You better make sure everything's working and running and catch them while they're there.
I mean, you think about that. That's, 10 and a half, 11 months of preparation for really one big make it or break it month. That's putting them balls on the line, old boy.
Welcome to crabbing.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm over here nervous as hell. I ain't got a boat. I ain't got a pot. I ain't got nothing. I'm just like, damn, man, that's the Wild West right there.
I mean, it's just Chesapeake Bay. Chesapeake Bay is a special place. It produces a crab like no other. It's an amazing resource. Sadly, it has not been managed and taken care of the way it should be, and that's a lot of what I also try to bring to light on social media, is just how our bay is not being taken care of, and how it could easily be fixed. There's an entire, I'm sure there's an entire generation, a young generation that are hard workers, that are motivated, that are driven. These guys are going out and doing the dang thing and not getting the credit they deserve. You also have just the cost of all this, and with over-regulation, you can't go out and make the money that you need to in order to stay in business. And somebody starting even in the crabbing industry now with pots, the first pots I bought were $13. They're now $36. They've tripled, I guess, or almost tripled, in 23 seasons. And the boats now have gone up tens of thousands of dollars. Everything on a motor now is $1,000 or more. There's just the cost of just maintaining, and if you're trying to feed a family and pay your mortgage and your truck payment and a boat payment, the juice ain't worth the squeeze when you can go and get a job at the port or go do something else and make the same or better money, and may not do what you like or love, but
not all the headaches either. You got the Miss Paula. What is it about that boat and that design that you like using it for what you do?
Yeah, so the FE Miss Paula is a 40-foot Kinnaman, 40 by 12. I got a 315 5.9 Cummins in it. It'll cruise, almost 20 mile an hour if I really want to run her up. Nice flat deck on it that is great for working crab pots. It's also a dead rise, which on Chesapeake Bay we have chop. We don't have swells. So the dead rise cuts through that chop nice, and my boat's glass on plywood, so it's really light, economical, burns, most I'll burn is 10 or 12 gallons of fuel a day, very economical, and it's just a great platform to fish crab pots off of. It's really what it was designed for. The roof keeps the sun off of us, but also can hold 150 crab pots on it, and it's just an ideal working space.
Is any of your kids show any interest in it?
So far, not really. My oldest will come on the boat and help. He started out on the spreading pixie dust for the tilt-a-whirl last year. Baiting shrimp heads into crab pots, and next year hopefully he'll be pushing pots and maybe dipping or whatever. So, but he's not money driven yet. So we'll see as he gets older. I'd almost push him more into social media. My oldest especially, he's a good looking kid, and he loves the outdoors, loves catching snakes and turtles and all kind of stuff. And people have noticed him from my videos over me, so he's got that look like Luke, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, but he'll tell me he don't want to do that either. So I keep telling him you have to figure something out.
Speaking of Luke, how does that character show up in your life?
Yeah, so him and I met Man, I think it's been about, I want to say 20 years ago. He was at my wedding. I've been married 16 years, and I met him a few years before that. His parents went to my church. He was wanting to fish and hunt and do whatever he could do outside, and his parents had no interest in it, just an anomaly in their family, and they came across me, and I've had a lot of mentors in my life, guys that took time out for me, and so I, took them under my wing, I like to say, and tried to steer them straight and give him opportunities that not every kid gets to get at his age, and he just loved it, and I saw that, and so was able to pour into him. And then when he graduated high school, he worked with me for a year, and I could see his potential, and I think he wanted to stay working with me or maybe take over my boat, but I knew he could do it himself, so I kicked him out of the nest, and he's flown high ever since.
The more you share it, the more it's going to help. Not just holding it close to the vest and saying to stay like it's been for the last 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's showing fruit now. I mean, most of the guys, like I said, are at least older than me, in their 50s, some in their 60s, and it hasn't been passed on at all. And and same thing with the customer, or the consumer. They really got to spend a couple more dollars to get the best quality you're going to get, and you always get what you pay for. If you're going to pay $6 a pound for these Indian and Vietnam shrimp that are raised in horrid conditions, sewage treatment plant overflows, and chicken farms, and just absolutely nothing that would ever pass United States standards. The wild caught, it's $8-9 a pound. You're going to be better off. Same thing with the farm raised salmon. You're always better to look for that dark red meat. You're going to get a better quality product. You're going to support fishermen. You're supporting your neighbors, or you're supporting people around you. You're supporting Americans.
Yes.
And we've lost so much of supporting our own people just to save a few bucks with Chinese knockoffs, especially in seafood. 99% of seafood is all foreign.
Yes.
And we've put an entire industry out of business because everybody wanted a fish stick, or they wanted to save $2.
Yeah. One question I've always been curious of is what's the average life cycle of a crab? Like when you guys harvest it, what's usually the age of that crab?
So the female crab releases her eggs. The crabs hatch. They go through, I think it's like 10 or 12 different stages before they get to be kind of that small little, actually still looks like a crab.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's another year for that crab to get to where I think it's marketable size. So I think they're at least 2 years old by the time they're marketable size or close to it. And then the crab can live another 3 or 4 years, I guess, depending on where they are in different areas, things like that. So it's a pretty low turnover. I think they estimate lifespan at about 3 years is how they base their regulations, things like that, off of as a 3-year-old crab. Steamed crabs with JO, and I'll take a pound of crab meat. I'll mix in their crab cake breader. It's literally like a little more than a pinch, probably a tablespoon of their, breadcrumb kind of stuff, seasoning, whatever. Mix that in, and I think you put an egg in it and some mayonnaise. Just holds everything together, and you put that with some Maryland jumbo lump, and that is the absolute best crab cake you will ever eat. I will put that crab cake with almost zero work because you're just basically eating crab meat. Very little, obviously, almost no filler, nothing else to go with it. A little Worcestershire sauce and some mayonnaise, and that's about it. And some JO #1 on it. And the same thing with soft crabs. Take a soft crab, take my grandmother's 80-year-old cast iron skillet. You put a pat of butter in there. You put that freshly shed soft crab that just fell out of the shell. You drop it right in the frying pan. That is the best soft crab you will ever eat. So we're simple, I guess. We're simple people, but man, we eat good.
Man, that soft crab sounds delicious right here around lunchtime.